Hello and welcome into the Knicks-Verse. My name is George, and if this is your first time here or you've been here before but have not subscribed yet, please do so, along with hitting that thumbs up button for me. And drop your comments. Definitely want to hear your thoughts and feelings about this video or anything Knicks. And please share the video. That would definitely help tremendously. This is a bonus video that I'm putting out just in under the wire before the calendar switches from 2024 to 2025. Now, you may be watching this on New Year's Day, which is awesome anyway. And Happy New Year. Happy New Year's to everybody. Happy New Year's Eve if you're watching it tonight. Tonight, I'm going to look back at the last 33 games of the Knicks. They're in the books. They finished 23-10. Excellent, excellent record for the Knicks. But are the Knicks a real threat to win it all? Are they a real threat to the Celtics, the Cavaliers, and OKC, who are right now considered the top three teams to take home the championship this year? And if they do have enough, but maybe they need a little more, we're going to look at that as well. So let's get into it, because one thing that is a major thing that's been going on right now is the issue of the starters and their minutes and the bench, and whether the bench should be utilized more to help, to help reduce the possibility of fatigue as the season rolls on, especially on those starters themselves, because they have been pretty outstanding so far, which is actually kind of forcing Thibs to continue playing them. So we'll see. We'll get into it right now. All right, look at that starting unit. They're fantastic. Fantastic. Just looking at this, Tommy Beer tweeted this out. NBA leaders in plus minus in December. Of the top 7, 5 of them are Knicks, and all 5 starters. McCall's number 1 with a plus 190. Towns number 3 with a plus 157. OG's 4th right behind him with a plus 155. And Josh Hart is 141. It's number 6. And Brunson is 7th on this one with a plus 133. Only Donovan Mitchell and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are players from other teams on this list. And they also are players that are on the top 3 teams that I just mentioned who are legit contenders. What does this show me? This shows me that those guys are on the court a lot. That's what this shows me, for one. And when they're on the court, they are dominating. Just pure domination. Legion Hoops tweeted this out. The NBA has released their power rankings, 1 through 5. Cavaliers number 1. Thunder number 2. Knicks are now considered number 3. They moved up 4 spots from number 7 last week, jumped over the Boston Celtics and the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies are someone to keep an eye out for. That team could become really dangerous, especially if they make an additional move or 2 before the trade deadline, which I expect them to do. They could be dangerous. Now, look at this. Right now, I agree with this, because I do believe that currently, especially in the last 8 or 9 games, the New York Knicks are one of by far the best teams in the NBA. They've won 8 straight. They haven't lost since they lost to Atlanta in the NBA Cup. And right now, they're better than the Celtics. Celtics are 5-4 in the last 9 games. They did spank the Toronto Raptors today, which is expected, especially without RJ or Emmanuel Quickley. They took care of business. So now, instead of the Knicks being a half game behind them in the standings in the Eastern Conference, they're now a full game behind them. But they're close. Knicks take care of business tomorrow. They're back to half game. If they take care of business on Friday against OKC and Celtics drop a game, the Knicks could be in second place in the Eastern Conference. So a lot to keep an eye on. I agree with this. And why? And part of this article, let me read some of this to you. So wins over the Spurs and Wizards last week were just the Knicks' 10th and 11th clutch games of the season, with only 2 teams having played fewer. They continue to close games with all 5 starters on the floor, and their starting lineup has now played 136 more minutes than any other lineup in the league. There are only 32 players who've played at least 1,000 minutes this season, and the Knicks have 5 of them. No other team has more than 3. Okay. Jalen Brunson, this is speaking to his clutchness, scored 16 of the Knicks' 24 clutch points in Washington on Saturday. And his clutch usage rate of 46.3% would be the highest rate for any player in the last 6 seasons. So when it's clutch time, the ball is in his hands. Over his 3 seasons with the Knicks, including playoffs, he shot 98 for 186. That's 53% on clutch 2-pointers. outstanding. That is outstanding. But just 21 for 70, 30% on clutch threes. So he struggles from behind the arc in clutch moments, but inside the arc, the man is just unstoppable. The next part of this article, through Thanksgiving, the Knicks were 1-7 when they lost the first quarter. Since Thanksgiving, they're 5-1 after losing the first. With their win in Washington on Saturday, this was written before last night's game, they improving them to 5-8 in games they trailed by double digits. For the season, they've been the league's best third quarter team, a plus 18.9 points per 100 possessions by a healthy margin. Now, in my opinion, if you are a great third quarter team, you are a definite legit contender. Most of the best teams in the history of the NBA have been excellent third quarter teams. So that is really incredibly encouraging. Now, the next paragraph. The Knicks will close 2024 with a second straight game in Washington, but that already happened, which we won. Their first game of 2025, a visit from the Jazz, will be the end of a stretch where they will have played 14 of 16 games against teams that rank in the bottom 10 offensively. So, weak offensive competition, not necessarily weak defensive competition, but definitely weak offensive competition. So that should show in the numbers. The defensive ratings and points allowed should have improved in the last 8 games, and man, did they improve. They'll have a rest advantage when they begin a 2-game trip in Oklahoma City on Friday, the first 2 meetings with the Thunder in 8 days. All right, let's get to this right here. So this is the bench. Before we get to the bench, let's look at the starters. As I told you they are the best unit right now. All right. The column all the way to the right is all 33 games. They're number 1 in minutes played, most minutes played, but they're also number 1 in most points scored, 97.4. They are number 3 in plus minus, a 6.9. They are number 1 in offensive rating, a 93.6. They are the worst in defensive rating, 86.3. But when you look at the last 8 games, which is the middle orange column right there, you can see their defensive rating has ticked up to an 81.1, which is 26. So they've climbed 5 slots. That is encouraging. That is very encouraging. So, and then when you look at the net rating, they are number 1 in the last 8 games, 11.0, where in the 25 games previous to that, they were 4th best with a 6.1 net rating. So that averages out to 3rd best for the full season with a 7.4. You look at their field goal percentage, they're in the top 3. You look at their rebounding percentage. In the last 8 games, they're in the top 3 with a 53.1% rebounding percentage. And the reason I use that over just straight rebounding numbers is because the Knicks are so efficient in making their shots. There are less offensive rebounding opportunities to even get, and that has impacted their rebounding totals. But when it comes down to rebounding opportunities, they are number 3 in getting those rebounds, and that is Karl-Anthony Towns and Josh Hart. They've been fantastic, but also, you know, we get some nice rebounding from Precious when he comes off the bench. And we've got OG and Mikal Bridges. They have excellent size to be out there. They pick up some extra rebounding. So I wish Mikal would get a few more than he does. In terms of now, okay, so that's the starters. Now let's look at the bench. Here's the bench. So the bench for the season. Now let's look at the first 25 games. That's the column, the orange column to the left. They play the least amount of minutes, 12.3, lowest in the NBA. They score the least amount of points, 20.8. But their plus minus is a 0.7, which is like right there in the middle. Now, this is for the first 25 games. Sorry. When you look at the last 8 games, they're still the worst in minutes, lowest in points, but their plus minus has ticked up to a plus 2.6, which is 5th best in the NBA. So the 5th best plus minus bench in the NBA. But the thing I want you guys to really look at right now is defensive rating. The New York Knicks bench have the number 1 defensive rating in the NBA. That means they allow the least amount of points when they are on the floor per 100 possessions. Only 44.3 in the last 8 games. 44.7 for the entire season, which is number one, which is the best. Then you look at the net rating, 4.1 in the last 8 games. That's 4th best, 8th overall in for all 33 games. Their field goal percentage has actually taken a dip down, and a lot of it is because of Deuce McBride. He has been struggling of late. Actually, let's look at that. So Deuce McBride, this is the whole season, right? So Deuce for the season is shooting 40.2%, which is beautiful. 42.5% overall, okay. But when you look at the last 8 games, that takes a major dip. He's at 35% from the field and 37.5% from the three-point line, which 35% is still decent, but it's not at those magical numbers he was before. And Campaign is only at 33% from the three-point line, where for the full season, Campaign is shooting 40%. So Payne and Deuce have taken a dip in their three-point efficiency as of late, which could explain why Thibs has not been playing them as much as he should. All right, let's get back to this. And you can see the minutes have dipped even in the last 8 games. But that defensive rating is truly impressive. But when you look at the column all the way to the right, all games, same thing, net rating. Knicks net rating are 8th best, the bench 2.0, and they have the 3rd best field goal percentage 56.3, but you can see when you look at the last 8 games, they're at 54.4%, which is only 13th best. So they have the bench efficiency numbers, the shooting numbers have taken a hit as of late. However, when you look at the rebounding, they went from a 50% rebounding percentage, which is right in the middle, 15th, to 56.1%, number one in the last 8 games. And that has to be attributed to Precious Achiuwa coming off the bench. Just help giving some extra size off the bench. He's active. That's what he's out there for. Get those rebounds. So it's brought up their overall for all 38 games. They are 4th best right there. Now, you have to wonder, okay, well, if you increase those minutes, will they stay as efficient? Will they continue to be this kind of a dominant rebounding team? Will they be a dominant defensive team if they up those minutes? Will the net rating stay around 2.0? Will the plus minus be still in the plus column if you up those minutes? I think eventually you have to. You just have to. Because everybody knows wear and tear is a real thing. This is a long, long season. There's how many more games do we have? 49 more games left. Burnout is real. Burnout is real. And right now, we're looking at June. We're looking at these guys playing in June. The one glimmering hope that we have that's already available, well, not available yet, but is imminent, is the return of Mitchell Robinson. And we know he'll be coming off the bench, and we know that those numbers are going to jump, especially defensively. They're going to become an even more dominant defensive bench unit with him out there. Now, it's going to take him a couple of weeks to shake off the rust, like we've seen for Precious. He had a nice game last night. It's going to take him a little while. Mitch is always kind of a slow starter like that, though I think he's working himself out. He's going to try and come back at his best physical version of himself. So let's hope that happens and that he can really have an impact when he hits the floor. And we might see some minutes with him, because what's important here is the starters. Actually, let me make this larger for you guys. Make this larger. So the starters in the NBA, to seriously be a chip contender, you need to be in the top 10 of both offensive rating and defensive rating. You guys have heard me say that before. Right now, when you look at it, this starting unit is the worst, 30th. All right, that's just not even, it's not even a discussion. Not even a discussion. But when we go back to look at the full season, here are the full season numbers. Defensive rating, the New York Knicks are 13th right now. 12.0, 13th. Just 3 slots below, creeping into that top 10. But you really want to be up around here, 6th or 7th in defensive rating. which is why when you look at what they've been doing of late is a bit encouraging. Because you can see defensive rating, the starters, they picked up 5 slots. They went to 81.1, and I believe, and we know that the bench is number 1 already. So there is hope. It feels like they're becoming more connected. They're especially Karl-Anthony Towns has become, I think, his defensive ability, his ability to challenge shots at the rim, even though at times he chooses not to, and I think it's because of foul trouble, but he has been doing it, and he's been picking up blocks, and we see it more so in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up the splits. I wonder what I'm going to pull this up. What the splits are. I'm having an inspiration right now. Sorry about keeping you guys on hold here. I'm happy because I'm doing this kind of on the fly right now. All right, let's look at this. So the defensive rating. Yeah, let's go back to here. All right, so this is the Knicks defensive rating. You can see Towns a 110.7 for the full season. But let's see. Just look at him in the last 8 games. I don't know what it's going to say. A 106.1. That is out. That's excellent. Now, that is, again, against weaker offenses. So we got to see if he can do it against better offenses. Like, the Jazz have a pretty decent offense when they're clicking. But OKC, they're one of the top offenses in the NBA. So Friday's going to be an excellent challenge. So you can see, look, right there, 106.1. What is his rebound? His rebounding percentage is awesome right here. Look at that, 19.4, 29.0 defensive rebounding. The guy's a beast. On the boards, excellent. I've been so surprised and pleasantly surprised by his ability to just suck up almost every rebound that's available out there. The offensive rating has just been great, 121.2 for him in the last 8 games. All right, let's get back to this. So we need to improve that defense, but it's already happening. I foresee once Mitch returns, there will be times where there will be blended lineups, as we saw against the Wizards when Valanciunas was cooking and he was with Kuzma. They had some decent size in the front line. Thibs went with Towns, Precious, and OG on the front line. Got some nice size. Imagine Towns with Mitch next to each other. Yes, it's going to hurt the floor spacing somewhat on the offensive side, but we're already the number 1 offensive team right now in the starters themselves. So we need to boost up that defense. I think it is possible to play Cat and Mitch together effectively for spurts. Doesn't mean it's your go-to. Doesn't mean you do it the whole game. You do it when the time calls for it, but that is a new tool in his toolbox that Thibs is dying to use that he hasn't had of late. Just bring in someone with tremendous size and activity like Mitch Robinson has, and you can see he looks a little bit thinner right now. I think he will bulk up as the season goes on, but it's better for him to be thinner when he's rehabbing, and it's just less wear and tear, less stress on the body, less stress on the feet, which that was, where the issues were. So there is hope. And that to me says, okay, so we have one key ingredient coming. However, what happens? What happens if one of these 5 guys loses significant time? And by significant, I mean, like, let's say they miss 10 games or so. I don't want to think about the worst case scenarios, but let's just say they miss 10 games here, 15 games there. Missing 1 or 2 games or 3 games because of a tweak this or tweak that or whatever. It's an issue, but it's not the end of the world. But once you start missing double-digit games, this starting unit that has been this effective, who replaces them? Okay, if Cat gets injured and Mitch has come back and he's effective, so Mitch could fill in for him, but it does change your whole dynamic of how you play, how you score. It's going to change the offense dramatically. If Brunson misses a stretch of games, obviously, I mean, we're talking about the 2, they're going to be all-stars or all-NBA players, so it's hard to replace that with bench players and still be competitive, but we've got Deuce. We've got Campaign. Deuce can definitely hold it down for at least a week or 2. Hart, well, we got Precious. Okay, But those two wings, we have no one who can replace OG and Mikal Bridges. Nobody. So by just that thinking right there, the obvious answer is Leon needs to acquire a quality wing who could start on a quality team, who has the ability to start on a quality team, but will come off the bench if everyone is healthy. And he'll be insurance, and he will boost the what that will do is convince Thibs that he doesn't have to overplay his starters, because the drop off offensively won't be that big, and maybe there'll be an uptick defensively. I mean, they're already a dominant bench unit defensively. They just need more scoring punch, more consistent punch, and more size, more flexibility. One more wing is what this team needs. That's what I'm saying. If Mitch comes back and he's healthy, because there could be an argument made that we could use a Walker Kessler or somebody like that, a Nick Richards, somebody in the 5 position as insurance for Cat, and just in case we need to go big against those teams that are big. When we got the Sixers to deal with, and let's say Mitch is not available, Cat against Embiid, it's a great battle, but it will wear Cat down. Giannis, who else? We got some big centers out on the West. We can't get back into the finals. Isaiah Hartenstein, OKC to deal with. So a center definitely would be nice, but we have a center coming. And I can't wait to see him out there with this unit. Can't wait for it. The Knicks could go super big at some point. They could have even, what you can even do? Here's the beauty of what they could do. Let's say there's a team that's super hot, scoring on us, right? You can sub out Brunson for Mitch with those other 4 guys and let Josh Hart bring the ball up. Hart and Mikal can semi-run the show on the offensive end. They are Mikal, OG, and Cat are incredible mid-range shooters. So the space issue becomes an issue because you're trying to get all the way to the hoop, all the way to the basket, and you're trying to force defenses to collapse around you, and then you kick it out to an open man beyond the 3-point line. Well, when you don't have that ability like Brunson has, you don't need to sag the defense that much. You actually don't want that much. So what you want is to be able to find pockets on the floor, in the paint, around the paint area, where these guys can cook and destroy and yet shut other teams down on the defensive end, where you can string 2 or 3 minutes together of not allowing the opponents to score and push them out of their rhythm. And then you bring Brunson back, and then maybe you sub out Mikal for Brunson. And that, I'm so excited to see that happen. But if something happens to those 2 guys on the left here on this image, we don't have anyone to replace him. Pacom Dadie is too young, and Thibs doesn't trust him enough. There's TJ Warren, who's in Westchester. He's not even with the club right now. And, familiarity, Thibs believes in familiarity tremendously. There's nobody else. Precious Achiuwa, because Precious Achiuwa really fill in for OG and Mikal Bridges. Not offensively. He's just not dependable that way. He's also not a creative passer. The creativity of the passing that this unit has right now is outstanding. I think they are in the tops in assists. Yep, they're creeping up there. They're 9th. They're in the top 10, 27.9 assists per game. They just share the ball in a beautiful way. Let's see, in the last 8 games. They're number 1. No, actually not number 1. Sorry. In the last 8 games, they're 10th. I was looking at the winning percentage. So that's the answer. We need a wing. This team needs a wing. They have all the ingredients to win it all if no one gets hurt, especially with Mitch coming back. But it would be nice to have that insurance. Also, when it comes to the playoffs, it's a limited series. If someone's cold, someone doesn't have it, maybe they're not, they don't have it. And then you need someone else to come off the bench to eat up those minutes and give us a scoring punch, someone with length and size. Campaign does it a little bit here. We've seen Deuce do it, but there's no one else 6'7" and up who can do it on a consistent basis. That is what this team needs. So guys like a Jordan Clarkson, I'm not that interested in. He doesn't give us the size we need because he can't replace an OG or a Mikal. But someone like a Trey Murphy could. I know I keep saying him because he's more of the prototypical. He's not available. I don't think the Pelicans are going to trade him. But somebody like that would be really interesting. Someone who is available is Ingram, who's also on the Pelicans. I don't know how it would work, but I wouldn't mind seeing Ingram come off the bench, honestly. And he'd have to play at least 26 minutes. 28 minutes. So he would force Thibs to reduce the minutes load on the starters. That's the kind of person I'm thinking about. Somebody like that. If you look at what the Dodgers did this year, Dodgers were by far the number one team in the National League for the long stretches of the season. The Padres, obviously, I thought the Padres by the end of the season ended up playing the best, and then my Mets just were fabulous at the end. They just crested. It was beautiful, incredibly exciting. But what the Dodgers did, they made some key trades at the trade deadline. Flattery, I forgot the other two guys they brought in, but all three of the guys that they added to the team were instrumental in helping them win it all. It's not about, oh, I love my team, I love my guys, let's see what we can do. No, it's about how do we win the whole fucking thing. I want a ring on my guys. I want a championship. And they are as close as they have been in 20 years, over 20 years. So this is the time. We've got to do something to get Thibs to open up the rotation minutes. And bringing in somebody who is basically a starter, a really great starter, a good, like maybe a B+ to an A- type starter. Now, some may argue Ingram could be more than that, but someone of that caliber, that would be perfect. All right, thank you so much for watching this. Again, my name is George. Happy New Year's to everybody here. Happy New Year's Eve if you're about to party. I hope you guys have a great time, and I will see you in 2025 around the Knicks-Verse. Let's go. Let's win it all. Come on, Leon.